Hello everyone, Juxtaposition here. Today's video will be entitled Bank Money Tutorial, and I'm referring to the money system, which is an international cabal of bankers who control the digital currency on the planet Earth. All currencies in all fake nations, because there are no sovereign nations on the planet Earth. There are no sovereign nations. There are only banks and there are bankers. And then there's their systems of control. There are no nations. There are no governments. There is no military that's associated with any nation. There's NATO forces, which is a one world order system. Just like the WHO, which is a part of the United Nations, which is not united, nor are there nations to unite. The WHO, the World Health Organization, it is a totalitarian cult out of Geneva, Switzerland. You know, that's where the Red Cross is headquartered for Europe. The Red Cross is in Geneva. Lac Leman. Lake Leman. The world is in Geneva. That was the last bank that Roberto Calvi visited before he went to heaven, or wherever you send elite bankers that are members of Propaganda Due, 33 level masonry, and primary bankers for God, aka the Bank of Vatican. The Institute of Religious Studies in Rome, Italy. That account was managed by none other than Paul Marcinkus out of Chicago, Illinois, through Cicero, and Roberto Calvi of Milan, Italy. And he got hung by an orange rope with a love knot underneath the Blackfriars Bridge with a Masonic design with the Argentinian flag colors. There he was, hanging like a piñata at 7 o'clock in the morning on a Friday morning as we awoke on June 17th, 1982, in central London, approximately 1 mile from where Judy Garland was done away with, and just a few blocks from the Tavistock Institute. You know, the place that created all the Beatles music, the Tavistock Institute. Yeah, they have an office in close proximity to where the world's elite banker Roberto Calvi was done in. I've done several videos on Roberto Calvi. I do recommend you check them out, although they're gonna have to hunt for them since BitChute doesn't have a table of contents. All right, I'm going to do a quick tutorial. It's a subject that most people consider boring, and their eyes glaze over and they stop listening. So I'm going to try to make it short and sweet and more entertaining. So there's the money system, which is controlled by the bankers. The people's money system, though, has always been in complete control of the people. That's the barter and exchange system. In other words, if you have artwork or tools or some valuable possessions that you own, you can trade those for labor or other goods and services. And a bank does not need to be involved, nor should they be involved. You can also trade your talent, skills, and labor for talent, skills, and labor, or commodities, or goods, or tools, or tangible personal property. That can all be done without ever visiting a bank or talking to an odious banker. That can all be done. That's the people's money system, the system of barter and exchange. Now, the IRS will tell you that that's illegal, unlawful, or you can just ignore them, because the IRS can't exist without a bank financing the payroll of all the agents that work at the IRS. They are 100% dependent on being really polite and sweet to bankers. Otherwise, they're unemployed. All right, so the banks have these different ways that they measure the supply of money. They have M0, M1, M2, M3, M4. I mean, you could say M100. You should know that they rank the money supply based on how quickly it can be accessed. In other words, the demand for the money can be accessed quickly is be M0, like checking accounts or cash in your pockets. Cash currency in your pockets could be M0, whereas M3 is going to be a certificate of deposit that is locked up for 6 months to a year, and it's there. It's part of the money system. However, it's locked up and not accessible without a severe penalty for early withdrawal. So depending on how liquid your money is, depends on the labeling of an M0, M1, M2. It's just like the military, isn't it? Right? Like the M16 rifle attached to the M7 bayonet, right? The M7 bayonet that killed Sharon Tate and Abigail Folger. Well, that's how they rank our money system. M0, M1, M2, M3. I think it was an M1 carbine that took out Ben Bugsy Siegel, the Jewish gangster there in Beverly Hills, 2 blocks from the Los Angeles Country Club golf course. All right, so what I wanted to tell you is that I got a couple of definitions that you never hear in the media, so I want to come to my channel to get this info. So there's capitulate, and to capitulate means to surrender, it means to give up, it means to not object, it means to acquiesce. In other words, when the authorities roll out a new program like chemtrail dumpings overhead or installing more 5G circuit board boxes in your park, and nobody complains, nobody objects, that's called acquiescence. And in maritime law, under maritime law, silence and acquiescence means capitulation. It means that you approve, that you surrender, and you don't resist because you agree. You agree with the circuit board boxes in your neighborhood. You agree with the 5G smart grid. You agree with the chemtrail pollution overhead. You agree. Because if you're not objecting, complaining, throwing a hissy fit, it means you approve. You approve of those militarized assaults upon your society. That's what that means under maritime law. Acquiescence means consent. All right, and that's what capitulation means. It means you agree with being a prisoner. You volunteer for incarceration. You volunteer. All right, then in accounting and finance, recapitulation means to capitulate again, except that what we call recapitulation in accounting is when you're adding numbers up, a column of numbers, and you get to a total, a toto, like the little dog Toto means total. Little dog Toto means total. If you want a total of a column of numbers, that's called a recapitulation. We'll give you the answer of the summation of the column of numbers. That's recapitulation. So we have capitulation, which means agreement and or surrender. And we have recapitulation, which means the sum total of a column of numbers. Now, the most important word in banking, never uttered in public, is hypothecation. Hypothecation is defined as the pledging of an asset, typically a tangible property, either real property like real estate or personal property like a car or a motorcycle or some kind of trailer or tool or object. Tangible personal property pledged as collateral is known as hypothecation. Real estate used to secure the loan on a property is called hypothecation. You know, like a mortgage. There's a hypothecation element to a mortgage where the house is pledged as collateral to the loan. This is also true with a car lease or a car loan. The car with a serial number, a VIN number, is pledged as collateral for the loan. Now, there's something that we don't talk about in banking, which is re-hypothecation. That means to hypothecate again. And I've just told you that the definition of hypothecation is to pledge an asset to secure a bank loan. Now, if you re-hypothecate, that means that we're making a second loan and we're re-pledging the exact same asset to secure the second loan. So now we have an eeny, meeny, miny, mo situation where a bank is using the collateral to support more than one loan, which is kind of fraudulent in my opinion. It means that the bank is debasing its own rules. The banker likes to tell you that they're part of fractional reserve banking. Reserve meaning that there's tangible personal property or real estate sufficient enough to provide a reserve backstop to all the credit that's extended. The credit is the creation of loans. The creation of loans is the creation of money supply. Now, what I wanted to tell you is that rehypothecation, by definition, is a form of fractional bank lending, meaning that the bank is then not secured. It is making unsecured loans into the society. Now, that's really not a problem because the bank never had the money in the first place. Banks create credit based on your social credit score, based on bank anthropology. In other words, if banks want a certain part of your town to be improved, they will do so. If they want a part of your town to become a ghetto, they will withdraw credit. You can see what they've done with the city of Manhattan. You see what they've done with the city of San Francisco. You see what they've done with the city of Stockton. They have withdrawn credit from certain parts of the city and are turning it into a dystopian society with homeless people. They do that on purpose, deliberately. It's part of programmable money management. That is anthropology. And I see that Robert Kennedy Jr., who's pretending to run for president and is begging you to send him money. Don't send that charlatan any money. Tell him to ask his first and second wives for money. Oh, that's right, I forgot. His first wife committed suicide, so I guess you can't ask her. Robert? Anyway, do not send any money to Ron DeSantis or Robert Kennedy Jr. They are charlatans and frauds, and they will not represent your interests. Do not send them money. That only encourages them to lie more. They have no authority. They are completely clandestine controlled. They will ask you for a PCR test and your money. Do not encourage those charlatans. All right. They are talking about programmable money. That's central bank digital currency, which is GPS tracked and associated with your medical records, your vaccination passport, your medical records, your financial digital recapitulation totals, and your behavior. In other words, they can lock you into a techno-enslavement system based on your obedience or disobedience. So if you're a disobedient person, like I am, they can turn my digital bank money off so that I won't be able to buy gasoline. I won't be able to pay a hotel bill in a different city. So I'm going to be sort of out of luck because, hotels don't take cash. They only operate on digital currency. If you don't have a debit or credit card, you will not get a room. They want to take your credit card imprint. Even if you paid them in cash, they still want your digital passport. So that system is already in full play, and it has been so for many years. So you see what they're doing? They're converting all those hotels, which are mostly college of corporation controlled, they're turning them into techno-enslavement obedience systems so that if you're obedient and compliant, you can travel. And if you're not, you can't. There's no need for you to go to a Ritz-Carlton hotel or a Four Seasons hotel if you're a disobedient person, because we're going to go to a system of privileges, not freedoms. There will be no freedoms in the new system. So all you fully vaxxed and boosted people who think you're being obedient, no, you're enslaved too. You will be bestowed privileges, which can be revoked at any time without notice. Without notice. It depends on your neighbor's Amazon Ring cameras. It depends on if you were cursing in public. It depends if you sassed your Amazon delivery man. Because if you committed any crime that are woke or anti-woke or anti-Semitic, your digital passport will be turned off and you will have to endure a timeout or report to a DMV or FEMA camp center to have your money system turned back on. Because they're going to close the ATMs because they don't want cash in circulation, M0. They don't want you to go in and ask for cash. They're going to close down branch banks, and they're going to turn everything over to the HAL 9000 supercomputer. And then good luck with your self-service banking. That's where we're going with our banking system. Now, the money system requires velocity in order to create inflation. It's not just amount of having lots of money out there. The value of real estate, to the extent that that goes up, and to the extent the stock market goes up in value, this creates the illusion that there's more wealth in the world. And so people, to the extent that they can borrow or trade and turn things into cash, either through hypothecation of using a margin account, borrowing on their stock market values, or through selling their stocks and withdrawing the digital cash currency. This creates the supply of money to go from an M4 down to an M2 to an M1 to an M0 to the extent that you use the digital values. I hope I'm making sense. So in other words, banks can increase the supply of money by inflating the real estate market, inflating the value of commodities and real estate. They can do it by inflating the phony fake stock market. The stock market is based on poppycock, people. The bond market is a complete fraud. The bond market is probably worth 5 cents on $100, okay? The bond market is 95% overvalued, okay? Because most of that credit's never going to be repaid. It has to be refinanced. So it's no longer a concept of do you trust the borrower? It's more of do you trust the bank to socially engineer a refinancing on those treasury bills or those national sovereign debt deficit notes? Because it's a poppycock system. It's not based on gold, bullion, or silver coins. It's not based on bullion. It's not based on reality. It's based on fantasy, Wizard of Oz, the Moloch lion's head with the flames coming out the nostrils. That's what our money system is based on. However, you do and will always continue to have barter and exchange within your grasp. I strongly advise you to take full advantage of getting off the grid and disconnecting the smart systems in your neighborhoods, because the techno enslavement system whereby clueless citizens allow a prison camp fence line to be built around their neighborhoods does not work without the 5G towers. We had a power failure a couple days ago and everything went quiet and dark. This has happened around 10 p.m. at night. And the ringing in my ears stopped. And all I heard was beautiful, sweet silence for about, 5 minutes that the power was off. When the power came back on, everything reset, the ringing in my ears immediately returned. But I'm here to tell you that if there's no energy being shot through the 5G smart grid in your neighborhood, there is absolutely no GPS tracking. The system goes dark. Raytheon Missile Guidance doesn't know where you are. Your cell phone company has no idea where you are. Your bank doesn't know what you're doing, doesn't know where you are or what you're doing. And Robert Kennedy doesn't have any idea what digital bank currency is or programmable currency, because he's reading a script. That's his shtick. If he wanted to help people, the last thing that he would do is run for president. But the fact that Robert Kennedy is running for president, it demonstrates the fraud that he is. It means that Arnold Schwarzenegger and Ron DeSantis and Robert Kennedy and Gavin Newsom and Dianne Goldman Feinstein and Nancy Pelosi, they all are in the same club. It's a club of perverts, okay? Any legitimate American that wants to help save our society would never participate in a system that's controlled by military intelligence and CIA. You have to operate outside of that construct. If you're in the construct, then you're just an actor on a stage. You're just another crisis actor. I'd much prefer to have a senile dementia president wearing diapers, face diaper and regular diapers, because it illustrates the point that he's not in charge. Joe Biden is not in charge. And the cackling cacophony of chaos that is Kamala Harris, she is not in charge, and she's never going to be in charge, ever. Of course not. I mean, A, she doesn't know anything, and B, she is completely controlled by military intelligence. All right, that's my sermon for today. I hope you enjoyed it. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.